All right. Okay, kick it off. Thanks everyone for stopping by and welcome to today's webinar. 5 things I have learned from Gary Keller.
Yeah, that guy.
Nailed the name. With MAPS coach Kristan Cole and co-host Joe Quattrucci. Before I kick it over to them, I have 3 quick announcements. Please note this meeting is being recorded, and I will share the link in the chat momentarily to the MAPS YouTube channel, where the recording will be within 24 hours. Currently, everyone is on mute. However, we do value group participation. So we ask if you have any questions for coaches, please type them into the chat box. Following the meeting, if you have any questions about today's call or any other coaching programs, please email us at fasttrack, FASTTRACK @kw.com. And that's all for me, guys. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Graham. It's so fun to be here today and talk about. It was super hard to condense down the 5 things I've learned from Gary Keller. It's like there probably is 5,000 things I've learned from Gary Keller, but I really looked at, there's a couple in here that are tried and true, but there's some that you might not have ever heard before, that especially in the last couple of years, as he's really helped me learn how to do mergers and acquisitions, how to do compensation for pretty big compensation plans, things like that, you just get to a point in your life that you need to know those things, and he's been mentoring us along the way. So I'm happy to share them with you today. If you stay on the call till the end, I have 3 bonus little items that Gary has also taught me, and I've taught you, that I think are super important as you grow your business. So the first thing that I learned from Gary Keller is who you hang around with matters. Jim Rohn would say it differently. He would say you're the average of the 5 people that you hang around with the most. John Maxwell would say if you aren't achieving your goals, you may need to get some new friends.
Right.
And Gary says, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. So as we start, and we're kind of like rounding the corner of the 3rd quarter right now, there's still a lot of time and a lot of momentum to hit your goals. I just encourage you to really ask yourself, if you're not hitting your goals, are you surrounding yourself with people who have already done what you want to do and just go follow what they've done? Rip off and duplicate, as my friend Ben Kenny would say. And I think Simon Sinek would say, it's not just about goals, it's about infinite growth.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important for us to think about, if you're not hitting your goals and if you're not growing, then it may be time to take a real hard look at who you're following. Because Gary says, everybody should have their prophets, so to speak. He means their mentors. And he says, be careful who you choose, because not everyone is equal, and you don't want to go just chase a shiny object. What you do want to do is make sure you're following someone that has already done it and been successful at it.
Right.
So I think it's super important to think about who you spending your time with. And sometimes you'll get to a point in your career, you might have to get on a plane to go spend time with people that are growing. Right?
Yeah, exactly. It reminds me of this idea of you don't always want to be the smartest person in the room. As a leader, we typically are that person, that visionary taking the lead. And how are you surrounding yourself by people that are pushing you to be better, that are forcing you to step up your game? By intentionally surrounding yourself by those people, you're going to see your own performance take it to the next level and the next level and the next level. If you're always the smartest person in the room, then there's nobody to push you to be better. And so we have to be mindful of who I want to surround myself by, people that are going to challenge me constantly.
Right. So you segue perfectly into item number 2, which is talent, surrounding yourself with talented people. And we all know that growth can occur a lot faster when you surround yourself not only with talented people, but talented people committed to your vision, not necessarily to a person.
Right.
Because as you're building your world, you got to build it big enough to attract people into that vision, such that they never have to leave.
Yeah.
And that requires you to not be the smartest person in the room. And it also requires you to start building your tribe early. Like, where do you have a vision? Somebody shared this with us the other day that was interviewing to be part of our organization. And they said, one of the reasons that they deselected another team is because they had no vision for where they were going. He said they couldn't articulate it.
Right.
So surrounding yourself with talented people who want to go where you want to go, your tribe, so to speak, and are committed to the vision, I think is really important. And we're going to talk the next topic, but before we do that, those talented people are going to help you create that world that just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger?
Yeah, I've got two examples I want to touch on really fast. Yesterday, I was talking to a team leader, a team owner, right, a rainmaker. They do about 100 transactions, small team, 3 or 4 agents, 2 or 3 admin staff. And he was talking about his next step in his growth. And we were talking about his talent. We were talking about their potential on his team. And so I asked him, when's the last time you did the motivational interview with your talent on your team to figure out where they want to go in their future? And he's like, you know what? Not since career visioning, since I hired them, let me try it again. So he did it, and he came back to me yesterday and was like, oh my God, I learned so much about my own people and where we stand today and what they want. I can see how now they want to stay part of the team. And this was an opportunity for me to talk to him about, as your team grows and as your talent pool grows, as does your vision. Otherwise, those talented people are going to find a new pond to play in. They're going to go find a bigger opportunity elsewhere. And so as the team grows in this particular case, and he attracts better talent, they step up, they prove themselves, he's able to then start offering a bigger and bigger vision in order to retain those talented people and get them excited about the future.
Right. Absolutely. You're doing such a good job with these segues. And you didn't even know what we were going to be talking about today until a few minutes ago. But number 3 is Gary Keller says you can be anywhere you want to be in 5 years. Where do you want to be? Right. So, Joe, would you mind sharing the screen? I want to show them a graph. Because Gary really, in ESO, many times I've taught it with him a couple of times, and he showed something similar. Now this one's going to look maybe a little funny to you, but he showed a graph of agent A and agent B, and he basically showed one agent just flatlining for 5 years, and the other agent gradually and then suddenly succeeding. So it looks something like this. Now let's stop right there. So if you see those 2 lines, they're both pretty similar. One is a little ahead of the other. They may be a year into building their foundation and getting ready to scale. And I'm sure one of them is probably thinking, gee, we might need some systems and models for this. Mm-hmm. And the other one is probably thinking, I'm just creating the business one day at a time.
Right. I'll just keep reacting to my environment and keeping up with business today.
Exactly. So if you continue, over a 2 or 3 year period of time, all of a sudden you start to see the gap widen. And Gary would say this is at the place where agent A, the green line, is actually saying to themselves, well, now maybe I need some coaching. I need some training. Maybe now I need to bring in some additional, models in order for me to scale, because this, as we have grown, we have to specialize more. Like now we have a really specialized marketing director that we didn't have before, because we're in a place where we need them.
Right.
And so at this point, you're constantly in growth mode, and you're constantly thinking, what else do we need in order to scale a business to be very disruptive?
Right. The compounding effect of results over time.
Right.
And
exactly.
top grading talent, top grading systems, top grading technology as it becomes necessary.
100%.
Meaning if you have a quote unquote small team right now, you may not have all of the same things as a larger team working down the hallway. And as your operations grow, your agent count grows, your volume grows, then continuously top grade. Otherwise, your systems become outdated and are no longer able to support the growth of your team.
And the gal on the bottom, agent B, is scratching her head thinking, what is happening with agent A?
Right.
Why is she, starting to separate herself from me? We started at the same time, but yet agent A is growing, and I'm like scratching my head saying, what gives? Right?
And that's an important, I'm glad you said that, Kristan, because agent B in this case, the red line, it's not due to a lack of effort, right? It's not that she's not trying in this scenario. 100%. It's a lack of intentionality.
Yeah.
It's a lack of forecasting what's going to happen next and systematizing processes to support bigger growth. When you're your own agent with one admin, it's easy to be entrepreneurial. I go on the listing appointment, I do all the work, I hand a couple things off to my TC, they do their side. As the operation gets bigger, it becomes more complicated. Absolutely. There's more people involved in the project. The project is bigger and it affects more people. And
truthfully, as it gets bigger, I realize a lot that I don't want to be involved in some things anymore. I had to be involved with them early on, but I
Right.
don't need to be anymore. And I'm not the smartest person
Right.
in the room anymore.
You can hire people that love that thing and are so passionate about it, they become the master in that lane.
Well, like this graphic, did you create it?
Absolutely not.
Did I create it?
Absolutely not.
Exactly. Exactly. So, as they continue, a funny thing happens, and it absolutely is gradually and then suddenly. And at the end of 5 years, it's amazing. We always overly estimate what we can do in 1 year, and we underestimate what we can do in 5. And this 5-year plan is really about compounding consistency over time, being willing to constantly be a learner over time, constantly being willing to upgrade your systems and your people and your talent over time. That's the way you get to be a Super Bowl team. That's the way you get to be anywhere you want to be in 5 years.
Yeah. The other thing I would add to this is we're obviously talking about a lot of the team dynamic. This is also important to note here. This requires a lot of personal growth and development along the way, right? And you do that a few ways. Number one, you obviously go read books, listen to podcasts, go to training events. You also are very intentional as you go throughout your days and weeks about learning those little lessons along the way. Every time you have a difficulty, a challenge, a negative emotion, you're stopping and saying, okay, what's going on here? What do I need to address? What do I need to resolve? Remember that for the future. And now let's move on with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just to anchor this concept, I was 25 years ago, I was a single mom with 5 kids. 10 or 15 years ago, I was an agent that had a very, very small team of a total of 5 in Wasilla, Alaska, and was doing great production. But I hadn't built a system to scale beyond just my single location. Then I came to Keller Williams, and back in 2012, just started with expansion and started, what we know today and what we knew 10 years ago is wildly different. But we just started being real intentional about our growth and about expansion and about scaling our business. And what I can tell you is about 5 years ago, we all of a sudden found ourselves in 47 cities, and we have 6 market centers and business centers here in Arizona that I'm the OP over, which is more than 1,200 agents. We're working on a big indie right now that has 450 agents. And so my point is that's all happened in the last 5 years. But the 5 years before that was very flat. It was gradually and then suddenly.
Right.
And so now we have the bigger our world got, the more tools we needed, the better technology we needed, the better talent we needed. But Gary's right. Wherever you want to be in 5 years, you can be there, but you have to be intentional. And you brought up personal growth, and I'm glad you did, because that's really super important. I don't think a lot of people think about their own personal growth. And you're going to get to a point where you're going to have to get on a plane to go be in person, to go sit at the feet of those mentors that have gone before you. And are you willing to do that? And if you are, and just follow what they've done, you can be anywhere you want to be in 5 years. And that brings us to our class. Yes, this is a promo for our class as well. We are starting a class next week, and we're going to give you a promo code. And I have to turn this clock around. See, we're so techie these days. You're gonna have 30 minutes to get 15% off on. Is it showing?
Yep, you can see
All
that guy. Yep.
To get 15% off on this class. Now, Tegan's going to type it in the chat box and let you know what the code in order to get the 15% off. But we're going to start this class next week, and it's once a week for an hour for 8 weeks that Joe and I teach that walk you through how to build this foundation. And the reason there's a week in between the classes is so that you can do the homework to get ready for the next class. So taking it with an admin is a great idea, because then they can be, they can be doing it with you and creating things along the way. And what I would say is this class, while we've broken it into 8 different sections, the next section we're going to talk about, which is the 5 pillars of a disruptive business that Gary came up with, are really, this is how you build it. So the 5 disruptive pillars of a real estate business. Number 1, we all know we need administrative support, right?
Absolutely.
We all know we need that first. Once we have some admin support, and I want you guys to know, I was a single agent, a solo agent for 15 years before I hired my first assistant. And hiring my first assistant was really scary. It was super scary. but what it did is it started to give me my time back to be able to spend more time with my kids, et cetera. So administrative support is so important because you don't want to build your foundation or go grow your business without that administrative support, because it's not sustainable.
Well, and it's all about ROI, right? I'm a very numbers driven person. I'm very left brained, right? Very analytical. And so when I think about leverage, it's a math equation. How much time do I get back in exchange for how much money? And what can I do with the time I just got back? So as simple as I'm a solo agent and I hire a transaction coordinator for $500 of transaction. What can I do with the 20 hours of transaction coordination that I'm no longer responsible for? Well, I can go lead generate and get 10 more listings with 20 hours.
Right.
That's a better ROI than saving $500 on a TC. And then that concept is then scalable to the size that we're at. Right. Where it's better for you to hire a full-time marketing director at a salaried position to create stuff like this and video and all the other things that he does, because it's a good ROI. It has a result attached to it that helps to benefit the business.
Right. And then number 2, building this business, this disruptive business, is lead generation systems. With lead generation systems, and especially because there's so many of them, but we talk about, and we're going to talk about MOFers here in a minute, but we talk about the most important ones for the message of the moment that are important right now. And when we look at the lead gen levers in this class, we teach you how to make each one of them disruptive so that you can attract business to you rather than you having to chase business.
Right.
So everything that we're teaching you is not just the foundational piece of it, but how to make it so disruptive that nobody can take business from you.
Well, and that's why you're saying lead generation systems, Kristan, not just go lead generate. We're talking about how do you build a system so that, number 1, you can systematize your own results, creating predictable income in your business. Number 2, then how do you take those predictable results and train your agents to do the same thing? Because that's when you have a scalable model. When you've written down with such detail how to follow a process that gives you a proven result every time, and then you train your agents how to do the same thing, that's creating leverage for your team, and that's creating a scalable model.
And what we love about having a scalable model like that is, for instance, a couple of years ago, we decided that we really wanted to focus on referrals. Mm-hmm. We went from closing like 10 million a year in referrals to 48 million a year in referrals. Yeah, that's 48 million in referrals by just being purposeful about that being one of our lanes of lead generation. So now we're the most referred network of all Keller Williams.
And it didn't happen by accident. There's a system around it. We had a process for how to find people, how to contact people, how to follow up. We have a whole team in place to help manage these. And so it's not an entrepreneurial approach. It's a very intentional approach.
Right. And then number 3 is tech tools, systems, and models like playbooks, automation for onboarding. I mean, how long did it take us to build that?
Yeah, a couple of years. With several, iterations.
And so I think the thing of it is that whether you're using a Google document in order to onboard people, which is where we were a few years ago,
sure,
versus where we are today, it's always a process, and the systems are always being tweaked to make sure they're the most efficient. And we tweak them the most when we have shifts in the market, because you can have a system. We just figured out the other day when our system wasn't as good as we thought it was, we figured out, well, here's a way that we might make it better and more efficient, mm-hmm. and more clarity around it.
Right.
So it's not check it off and be done, but what we're going to teach you is not only how to build it, but then how to constantly be testing it, scaling it some more, tweaking it,
right,
and how you actually go about doing that.
2 quick examples of some basic systems. And I like to start sort of solo agent, smaller business. What's the first system that you can create that's going to maximize your efficiency and save you time? Every time I take a listing, here's the 12 steps I need to follow. Every time I set an appointment, here's the 12 steps I need to follow. Every time I get under contract, here's the 14 steps I need to follow. And simply by outlining that system for yourself, you're going to save yourself the time and the energy of having to make decisions or come up with new solutions every time you do a process over and over again. Then you take that one system, you build several more over time. And again, if you want to build a big team, that's the foundation of your value proposition. You have a process in place for what happens so that when you hire a new transaction coordinator, a new operations staff member, or a new agent to your team, you have the materials in place to say, hey, we have a specific system that we follow every time X happens. So we don't have to pick and choose. We don't have to guess. We follow the system. And so you're creating leverage for yourself to be able to train those people and a system for them to follow. A system can be as simple as a checklist to get started. And then, of course, bigger systems are, well, how do we onboard 40 agents in a month? That's a bigger system that relies on smaller pieces of the system, these tools and technology that you're talking about, to be in place.
Right. And so then we got to a place where we needed a coaching and training platform in order for us to coach and train our own people at a scalable level.
Right.
And so we went through several iterations of that too. And we finally just launched our own company to do it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. In the short term, we always say, take advantage of the resources that you get from Keller Williams.
Absolutely.
Keller Williams, you've got KW Connect online. You've got a PC coach in your office. You've got MAPS coaching. You've got Bold.
You've got the Market Center calendar, which
training
we
calendar,
leverage a ton.
100%. So take advantage of those things and start building out your own training materials. When you're on my team, here's what I need you to know. When you're doing a transaction with my team, here's the process that we follow. And so you can start creating your own training content as you're leveraging the Market Center.
Mm-hmm. And then number 5 in building a disruptive business is joint ventures. And those can be, for us, it was a joint venture that we did with our coaching and training, or it could be title, or it could be mortgage, or it could be with one of your vendors, your allied resources, just creating those relationships such that they're win-win. And that took me, we've been working on mergers and acquisitions and joint ventures the last 3 or 4 years. But prior to that, it was like, I didn't even want to think about that. We had other fish to fry. So it's always sequential. It's never simultaneous.
Right.
So during this 8 weeks of Scale Your Business, we're going to help you step by step create your own disruptive business, whether you're a solo agent or whether you have a small team or a big team. We're going to start simple and get more complex. But our whole point is that at the end of the 8 weeks, you have the fundamentals for you to start scaling your business.
Yeah. The other thing that comes to mind with joint ventures, Kristan, let's say I'm a smaller team and I don't have a whole bunch of equity to give away or other opportunities. I might even classify a joint venture as something like a profits interest in the company's position, right? Or a bonus based on performance.
Now, don't get to my bonus stuff.
Oh, am I getting ahead of myself? I apologize.
Okay.
But the idea there is be creative. You don't have to be offering positions in title companies in order to provide a joint venture to your staff if you're getting started.
Right. So we talk about that too. And then we focus a lot on MOFers. And some of you are probably going to say, what the heck is a MOFer? It's a message for immediate response. And Gary loves MOFers. Some examples of some MOFers of the past, and they still work, but are guaranteed sale program, flexible commissions, hassle-free listing, competitive pricing program. Those are all MOFers to get people to raise their hand.
Right.
One that's being talked about a lot today is the 72 sold program. And that's something that is a compelling program to get a seller to sign. And when they have convenience and certainty, that's what trust means to a seller. So that's really what that program is. But that's a MOFer.
Right.
So we also walk you through different MOFers, both in the lead generation for people and the lead generation for buyers and sellers, and also the lead generation flow, if you will, in relationships to get into business with other people down the road, because those don't happen immediately. Those usually take some time. So we talk about, well, what do those MOFers look like? I mean, what are you offering that's so disruptive that somebody wants to come work with you? What are you offering the seller that's so disruptive they want you to list their home? What are you offering that's so disruptive that somebody wants to start a new business with you? So we really talk a lot about how do you make it compelling?
Right.
Compelling.
I'd love to jump in on this with a quick personal story, because when you and I first met, there was a lot that was compelling in your vision. And so I like to tell this story because I think it's super relevant to how it pertains to attracting talent. So when I met Kristan, I'll just give you kind of like the snapshot version of this. What she did not do was tell me how much money I was going to make, or tell me about how cool our systems were, or tell me about how much leverage I would have. Instead, what she did was cast a really big vision for the future. She told me about what she wanted to create in Keller Williams and the service she wanted to provide and her vision for giving back and what that would look like. And then she was able to connect that to where I would have a role in that vision, right? Knowing my background and my past, she helped me connect the dots of, okay, I see where you're going. That's pretty cool. And now I see how I can start helping contribute. And I bring up that story because I moved across the country gave up a successful, a PC coaching role that was going very well to take on this opportunity. And I would not have done that for a promise of a paycheck. I would not have done that for cool systems and technology. I would do that for a big vision that I could have a direct impact in making. And so we have to think about that as leaders. Do we know what our vision is? And are we communicating that to the people in our world who we want to keep around?
So when we talk about maybe the 3 bonuses that I mentioned earlier, one of them, and I think we go over this in lesson 8, it's the 10 best filters to filter opportunities that might come your way, right? And we talk about it a lot because, it's either your time, your money, or your influence that any opportunity is going to require. And then there's a lot of other things in those 10 filters that Gary has taught us how to filter through opportunities, because sometimes the money may be great, but it's the wrong time, or it's too noisy of an opportunity, or we don't have the driver for the opportunity. So there's a lot of different things to filter opportunities through. And we teach you how to do that based on your what's important to you at the moment.
Right.
Because, 20 years ago, I would have given up, all my time, but I didn't have any money or influence.
Right.
Right. Today, I have very little time. So I'm willing to use some of my money and influence, but I don't have any more time. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but there's 10 other filters that we really talk about in examining an opportunity. And we talk about that a lot at the end of the course. But the other things that Gary explained to me, and there's 8 compensation models, because not everybody wants to be compensated the same. Like you said, you didn't move across the country for a paycheck. You moved across the country for a big vision and an opportunity to impact that vision. And so he's taught me how to structure compensation for a person who thinks like that.
Right.
Right. And even you and I went to Gary, a year ago when we started working on changing your comp plan, for him to help me again, because I hadn't done it before. So we are your mentors for helping you scale your business and grow it, starting from a single agent to a successful team as big as you want it to be, because this foundation works for everything.
That's right. They're really everything we talk about are business concepts. They apply as a new agent, solo agent, small team, and all the way up to big team, because these are business concepts.
They're business concepts, not real estate concepts. The other thing that Gary taught me was the 10 best questions you should be asking yourself at the end of every year. And they're pretty insightful, and he's pretty direct about them, but it really caused me to step back and think, because Gary said, just because you're successful doesn't mean you're happy or in control of your destiny. So he said, a lot of you in the room are successful in spite of yourselves, or without really thinking about what you want your destiny to look like. So he ran us through 10 questions to really look at that and think through that. So those are all concepts that we talk about in this course. Some of them we're adding to the course. We've taught it now 3 or 4 times. And so now I'd love to find out what questions you guys might have, either about the concepts we've talked about today, or the course itself. And let's see, how much more time do we have on the timer? 15 minutes for the...
Yeah, we can take up to 15 minutes of questions. That's all for content. I did see a question in the chat box about number 4, which are the 5 pillars of disruption. Real quick recap: administrative support, lead generation systems, tech tools, systems and models is number 3. Number 4 is coaching and training platforms. And then number 5 is your joint ventures.
And you can come off of mute if you have a question, or you can type it in the chat box.
Vanessa wants to know, what time is the class?
It is on Central Time, and Tegan will know the answer to that. I believe it's
11 Central. Thank you, Graham. Perfect. That's coming up next Wednesday, a week from today.
A week from today.
There you go.
The cool thing about the class is that you can access the recordings for up to 60 days after the class ends. So let's say you missed a class because of a vacation. You can go back and watch it. You can go back with your team and rewatch it. So you have access for up to 60 days after the course ends. So that's really 16 weeks to work on your business. And if you think about it, that's about how many weeks we have left before the first of the year.
Yeah, that's awesome. Valerie wanted to ask about, do we share the actual steps to the systems? And I think the way I would respond to that, Valerie, is we talk about all the most important systems, and we share a lot of our team's strategies. However, you have to keep in mind the steps of your system system may be a little different than our system.
But for instance, like with a playbook, we actually give you one of our playbooks, right? That has all the steps in it so that, because I found that it's easier for me to go create something once I have a template. So we do give away a lot of our templates.
Elijah wants to know, what are some of the ways the things you do to get referrals?
Well, we do a lot of social media. We do a lot of agent to agent contact. Like agents call me all the time or text me from across the country wanting to know, hey, do you have an agent over here? If you don't have one, do you know who has one? And I think because after so many years in the business, I know a lot of people, but where we became super purposeful about it was within our organization and making sure we built out the whole referral map where they could just go into our system and click and know who's in that location. So it didn't have to be all housed in my brain anymore.
Right.
So we built a system out where people can quickly find an agent in an area that they need to send a referral to. And then we have a full-time VA that one of her many jobs is she follows up on all the referrals we place and all of the incoming referrals to make sure that they are moving along and also does all the referral forms back and forth. That's how, because I don't know about you, but sometimes I may have given a referral and never even known if I got paid on it.
Right.
So we have a whole system for that.
Yeah. One more thing on referrals. Just like everything, it's like relationships, right? So what you don't do to get referrals is email blast 1,000 KW agents, send me your referrals in Scottsdale, Arizona, because that doesn't work, right? And I'm sure you've gotten those emails before. The way you do it is you go to Mega Camp, Family Reunion, you go to Market Center events and you go meet agents and you go establish an actual relationship, right? That's
Absolutely.
lead generation 101.
You let them know where you're from. And so anything that you can do as a reminder for where you're from, like most everybody knows I'm from Alaska.
Right.
But, I talk about it a lot, while I'm housed in Arizona 90% of the time. Everyone knows I'm from Alaska. And so making sure they know where you're from. I specifically, after going to conferences for quite some time, I know who my go-to person is in Tampa, my go-to person in Fort Myers, in Dallas, and Argyle. I just know my go-to people. So that's what I try to do, is find go-to people in specific locations where we have a ton of referrals back and forth. We have a ton of referrals obviously from Alaska, and we have a lot of referrals from the northern states. Yeah,
absolutely. I've already seen at least 3 or 4 people say that they've signed up. So congratulations on getting your discount. Joe wants to know if you can go over number 5 just a little bit more.
Joint ventures? Or number 5, focusing on your MOFR?
On your MOFR, yeah.
Yeah. So for instance, you would never want to put an ad out that says, I have 20 years of experience, call me. Is anybody going to call you?
Boring.
Right. You're not asking for them to take any action. What you would want to do is say something like, listing with the Kristan Cole Network should cause your home to sell, and call us if you're interested in selling, or what's the one we did with the 7 shallow sellers? Call us for the 7 reasons you should have your house on the market today. So we're always, some of them are very old, some of them are more newer. But what you're doing is you want to find out what's going on in the market that is important to people. Is it interest rates? Is it pricing? Is it timing? Is it want to sell your house but don't know where you would go? Call us to find out how we can allow you to stay in your home an extra 6 months.
Right.
It's the message of the moment, the pain that people are feeling for the moment. What is the problem are we trying to solve? And then coming up with a message to solve that problem.
Yeah, exactly.
So for instance, when people wanted to sell, but they didn't know where they'd move to, we came up with a campaign for that.
Right.
So that's what a message for immediate response would be. And we talk a lot about how to put those together, because we talk about them literally every week. What's the message of the moment? Is it shifting? What do we need to be training our people to? Any other questions?
I think that's the only questions I see so far in the chat box. I think we're all caught up.
Well, so Tegan, are there any things that we have forgotten that we need to talk about before I talk about one more thing, which is the vision gap?
I don't think so.
Okay, awesome. When you talk about opportunity, Gary says the biggest gap for most people is the vision gap, the difference between what I am doing and what I could be doing. And for most people, agents are tired. And when you're tired, you don't usually have a lot of vision for something, right? So he says right now we have a big vision gap. And the best way to get out of that funk and start creating a vision for your team is to get around other people who've already done it, that can walk you through the process and help you with it. Because I don't know about you, but it was very difficult for me to figure out my big why, and to figure out the big why for our organization to figure out our big why. And that took time, and but being around other people who had figured it out, and knowing that eventually you will if you stay at it, it also started helping me think about, well, what is the vision for this company beyond just me? Because it should never be about me. And so if you can, working on your own personal development, and also having your team, we get together with our team once a month for a couple of days, and we really work on some of these things. The vision for where we're going, and what do we need to do now in order to make sure that we get there. So if you feel like you've got a vision gap right now, the difference between what you are doing and what you could be doing, you just need some help with some mentors that can walk you to that next level. This is really the class to sign up for, especially right now as we get ready to go into business planning.
Yeah. And earlier when you said homework, we're not talking about busy work here. We're talking about important business decisions that you, your business partners, and your team are going to make week by week, so you can lay the foundation for your future growth. So we're talking about very intentional action items to really help you gain this clarity, and really help you gain what are my next logical steps, so that I can start this 1% growth curve that we showed you earlier in your business too.
Because it does look exactly like that with all of the agents that I've ever seen that are highly, highly successful. It's never that they're wildly successful, like straight up. It's compounding consistency over time. Are you willing to get up and do every day what nobody else wants to do?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of pieces of this business that people just don't want to do. And so their success never grows or never expands. But our business isn't difficult. We have several agents on our team that had stayed at a certain level for many, many years. One of them 30 years, right?
Yeah.
And once we taught him some of these skills about how to consistently get better, how to be more consistent, how to be more purposeful in the planning of their day. And these are all simple concepts. When you put them all together, what it did is it created a compound effect. He went from $8 million in sales when he first started with us to this year would be over 40 million. And that's in 2.5 years. You can be anywhere you want to be in 5 years, but you've got to be around mentors that can take you there. But you have to want to go.
Right.
We can't drag you. That doesn't work, does it?
Wow. Looks like we had a sign up just now from South Africa.
Wow.
We're going international.
That's exciting.
Very cool.
Very cool. But these are just some of the concepts that, and there's so much more, like I said, that Gary has taught me. He's taught me that it's more important to have clarity of my vision than certainty of the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about that, you've got to have clarity of the vision. He also says change is inevitable, but your participation is optional. Meaning it's going to change.
Yeah.
Your participation is optional. So getting around other bigger thinkers, that's what's helped me. We could have never accomplished what we're accomplishing if I wasn't around bigger thinkers all the time. And I'm super grateful for the bigger thinkers in Keller Williams that has pushed me out of my box and helped me see that things can be done differently. And that by doing it that way, we all win together. That, it goes back to the old Zig Ziglar, as long as we help other people get what they want, we'll get what we want. And these concepts are tried and true. It's from the mentor, Gary Keller. And I don't know about you guys, but all the advice he's given me and helped me over the last 10 years that I've been with Keller Williams has gone from, a single agent to a small team, which was awesome. And saying a small team could have been awesome. However, I knew I had more in me, and he helped me get there. So we want to help you get there too. So we look forward to having you join us for Scale Your Business starting next week. Again, Tegan will put it in the chat box because I think there's a few more minutes that you can actually get the discount for the class. And we look forward to seeing you there. Remember that the recording is for up to 60 days after the class is completed. So if you've got a vacation, or you're going to fall masterminds, or you're going to coaches skills camp, or just anything like that, it's okay. You can go back, you can watch the recording and get caught right back up.
And for Deborah and anybody else that has, or anybody else that has an issue with signing up, just email the email provided, fasttrack@kw.com, and they'll make sure that you get registered and get all your materials in time for next Wednesday.
Right. And just make sure that when you email them, give them the promo code.
Web15.
Web15.
There we go.
Is the promo code. And to log in, it's scaleyourbusiness.co is the direct link. But if you're having difficulty, just email Fast Track and they will get you signed up. So we look forward to it.
Yep, absolutely.
Starting next Wednesday, be there 11 Central. See you then.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you there.